So these are the three things I think: ethical AI, digital trust, and decentralized identity are three things to watch out for in the coming 2 3 years, I think.
Hello and
Oh,
welcome to a whole new episode of Engati CX. I'm your host Jeremy D'Souza, and we're really thrilled to have all of you today on the show with us. On this show, we talk to CX and technology experts from around the world. We explore, uncover, and share fresh insights on creating experiences that your customers will remember and look forward to. A little bit about Engati, right? Engati is the world's leading multilingual, no-code digital CX platform, available across 14 channels with more than 45,000 solutions created and deployed across 186 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has also been recognized as a top platform by Inc. magazine, Tech World, CIO magazine, and many others. We run the Engati blog, the video channel, and the Engati CX podcast, receiving upwards of 400,000 visitors annually. And now for our amazing guest. Samiran Ghosh is a technology consultant who was previously a senior advisor at McKinsey & Co. and Rubik's Data Science Private Limited. He is also a digital transformation consultant at Humming Live. As digital advisor at Microsoft, he has worked with CXOs to reimagine and transform their customer engagements, employee experiences, business models, and operations. He has worked at the National Institute for Smart Government on several e-governance projects, including the Aadhaar project, the largest identity program in the world. Apart from being a senior advisor at McKinsey, Samiran also advises startups, and he has co-authored books on both AI and blockchain that were published by Wiley in 2020. Welcome to the show, Samiran. We're very thrilled to have you with us today.
thanks for having me over. Thank you so much.
Okay, before we dive into our interview, folks, don't forget to subscribe to Engari and tap the bell icon to get exclusive access to content from thought leaders around the world. Let's dive in, Samiran.
Sure, looking forward.
Okay, so my first question to you is, in your experience, what role do technologies like AI and blockchain play in social inclusion?
Oh, thanks for that question. And most people tend to ask me, how is AI going to improve operational efficiency
Mhm.
and manufacturing excellence and fintech? But I think one of the big areas where technology can help really is in solving a lot of the world's problems.
Mhm.
I think as a simple example, just look at AI, and we keep on hearing about this whole thing around uh, autonomous vehicles and self-driving cars. So while things are still in progress, but statistics have shown that if self-driving cars can reduce accidents by 90%, it can improve efficiency of travel. Smart lighting can reduce waiting time at signals. Uh, uh, and it's just overall create a huge efficiency when you kind of put it onto the public transportation space. AI has further applications in road safety, fuel consumption, climate change. It's been used by companies to help the deaf and dumb to see see better or adjust to society better. And in fact, Bill Gates, in his new book on climate change, talked a lot about how technology can help leapfrog the whole effort to make the world a much better place to stay. Uh, Coming on to blockchain, again, it's Bitcoin kind of tends to kind of occupy most of our mind space when it comes to blockchain. But I think one of the big use cases for blockchain in the coming years is going to be around identity. If you kind of just pause to think about it, about 1 in 7 in the world are without an identity. To make matters worse, about nearly half of the world's children under the age of 5 uh, and about 600 million children under the age of 14 don't even have a birth certificate. So what does this mean? This means that they are actually invisible to all kinds of social programs. They are easy prey to human traffickers, sold into slavery, and stuff like that. So I think one of the big things that is a lot of companies are working on, and that we're going to see unfolding in the years ahead, is going to be this whole implementation of digital identity for everyone across the entire world. I think, in fact, blockchain probably is going to do for digital identity what Netscape actually did for the internet. Uh, yeah.
Wow, that seems really interesting. I'd like to see how that works out. Samiran, what do you perceive to be the economic value of digital identity?
So, in just terms of non-numeric terms, I mean, we know that just by identifying each and every person on the planet, we are able to better target social services to them. We're able to, you know, just make sure that the world becomes a safer place for them. Even in terms of general commerce, for the Amazons and the other e-commerce giants, you just have that many more people you can sell to. You know, there was a study that McKinsey did, and they said that implementing digital identity could unlock a value which is to the equivalent of 3 to 6% of GDP by about 2030, depending on whether you're an emerging or a developed economy. Uh, so at the individual level, the businesses and even governments will all find value in the implementation of digital identities. They should be able to allow you to provide cost-efficient bank accounts, do talent matching, reduce fraud, increase sale of goods and services, and then a whole gamut of other things just by the fact that you are now able to identify each and every person. You know they exist, therefore they are either a target for a service or a benefit or a potential customer. So there's huge economic value in digital identity for all.
Yeah, it definitely looks like there's tremendous economic value in digital identity. And you did touch about reducing fraud, right? So, Samiran, what are your thoughts on reducing identity fraud and increasing cyber resilience?
So I think this is again a question that everyone asks, is that, is there a mm, magic solution to reduction of fraud, or this whole thing around data privacy? So I think the easy and the long and short answer of that is that I think as long as there's this whole thing around this the good guy bad guy thing, right? So as long as there are going to be good guys, there are going to be bad guys. So someone's going to try and hack into your system, someone's going to try and commit fraud. And I think in the last few days we've seen how LinkedIn data has been taken away and Clubhouse data has been taken away. But all I can say is that by just moving to an era of probably digital identity, an era where each one controls their own identity in a decentralized manner, we are definitely reducing the chances of fraud. So if we are unsafe today, we would be less unsafe later. But this is not a foolproof method by which that risk of fraud and the risk of cyber hacking goes away. In fact, just to kind of give you an example, so that whatever you are seeing today will kind of be meaningless with the advent of quantum computing, because the whole way in which quantum computing works is a different paradigm. So anything which has got even 256-bit encryption or 512-bit encryption can be hacked by a quantum computer. So people are having heard of that. People are now talking about how do you make systems quantum safe, which means that if hackers had quantum computers, how do you make them safe? A classical case would be Aadhaar. Like if somebody with a quantum computer goes after the Aadhaar system, is it safe? And if you want to keep it safe, how do you do it? So uh, I think it's a continuous battle, but I think just because something is unsafe doesn't mean we stop working on it. And I think we must continue our journey to secure our citizens, to provide them identity, and just keep things as safe as possible.
Absolutely, it's a fight that you have to keep fighting. You can't just give up and say, you know what, with new technology, it's anyways going to get messed up. No, you have to keep doing it, right?
Correct, absolutely.
True, that makes a lot of sense, Samiran. Um, Now, another question. What would you say is the impact of AI and blockchain, and how is it manifesting in the global south?
So again, this is a very uh, uh, this is a question that's asked because that there are people in the world who believe that a lot of this technology is very developed country focus. It's very Western focus. So what is really happening to uh, this technology, and how is it really impacting the people in places like India? So I'll just try and give you a couple of examples, just maybe starting with blockchain. Uh, Again, this is a matter of public record that there are about 290 million eligible voters, which is kind of more than entire nations, who are enabled to exercise their right to vote due to migration without a permanent local address, just in India. The Election Commission of India has recently announced that they are going to be actually working on a blockchain-based solution that will address this issue. So that there's hopefully there'll be no longer loss of votes. So you can just imagine how much more real the election mandate will be if all the people who cannot vote could actually vote. Uh, the other simple example is that about 250 million people around the world are actually affected by floods, which cost about billions of dollars in damages. So flood forecasting models, are available that can therefore predict not only when and where the flood might occur, but the severity of the event. Uh, so I think Google had started doing this flood forecasting efforts in India, where about 20% of the global flood-related fatalities occur. So they are partnering with India's Central Water Commission to get data needed to roll out early flood warnings, even on a pilot basis. So there is a lot of things that are possible to do in the global south. These technologies are, in fact, if anything, much more suited to solving problems of the global south, because that's where you need scale. That's where there where impact will be seen at a grand scale. So definitely, there's a huge potential of doing it, and there is some work going on in this space. I think it's important to surface some of this work and inspire other people to kind of do more here.
Absolutely, those are some really, really interesting and useful applications which we're seeing. Samyan, you spoke about inspiring people, right? What would you want to let our audience know? Like, one last thought for this interview.
Yeah, in fact, that's a good you asked me that. And in fact, I'd like to kind of leave you with one thought, but with three parts. uh, you
That sounds fun.
couldn't resist that. So I think there are two or three things I think I just would like people to kind of be aware of and watch out for in the coming times. Uh, a couple of things. So, I mean, as you're aware that, algorithms really rule our world now, whether you like it or not. They decide if a
Definitely.
person needs to, will get a job, will be called for an interview, what products will be surfaced for you when you are buying on Amazon, whether you're going to be released from prison, actually. So, and really what these algorithms are is just a set of data points with an exact definition of success. Uh, the problem is that, these are again defined by people who have their own biases.
True.
So there is a huge amount of work now going on how do we make these systems ethical, which means that they do the right thing. In fact, one of the things I could leave you with is that there is this very classical thing called a trolley problem, which is that, if a trolley is coming down a track and the track bifurcates, there's one man tied on one side and there are five. What should we do? Should we save the one guy? Should we save the five people? Should we break the trolley? What all can we do? In fact, there was an experiment done called the Moral Machine by MIT, and if you kind of look it up, you'll find it. It's an ongoing experiment where about upwards of 40 million people have responded, and they still don't know, what's the right answer, because they keep on varying the scenario, and depending on, and they kind of converted it into a oncoming car. So they say if it's an old person, there's a different response. If there are kids, there is a separate response. If it's a handicapped person, there's a separate response. People of color and all of that. So there's so much going on there. But I think the thought I would like to leave is that ethics and its application in AI is going to become a very, very important area going forward, because as you have machines doing more things than humans will, you will be asking them to make judgments about uh, issues and events that humans do intuitively, and they are just not capable of doing that right now.
Mhm.
The second thing is around this whole thing around digital trust. When the internet was really built, they didn't really invest too much on trust and trust protocols because it was meant to grow. It came out of the academic world. But when you look at it in the real world, you see, how do you make a friend? You like each other, you gel, you start trusting each other, and and you kind of go forward. You start working together. But in the digital world, these trust relationships have to be established simultaneously and spontaneously between entities that are often unrelated to each other. And this trust must be constantly examined and re-established during the course of the interaction and every interaction. So as volumes of transactions grow, as we talked about, more people come into the digital world, systems interact with each other. This whole area of how do you uh, create trust in each and every interaction is going to become a very, very important aspect. And coming to the third thing which I wanted to talk about is this whole thing around digital identity, which is spoken a lot, but I'll kind of take it a step further, is talk about it in a decentralized manner. Most digital identity frameworks today are actually centralized, and they aren't portable. And most importantly, they don't give consumers control. So, Aadhaar is given to you, but you really don't control anything. Uh, uh, you give your Aadhaar, somebody does some with it. So the next big frontier in this area would be decentralized identity. That you will only share that data that individuals want to share. And if you, as an individual, choose to change your mind and say that I will only share the right to use my information for health but not for advertising, you can do that, and you can withdraw that right at any time. So it is true democratization of your identity. So I think this is another area in which a lot of work is going on, uh, 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 or riding on the back of blockchain and digital identity. So these are the three things I think: ethical AI, digital trust, and decentralized identity are three things to watch out for in the coming 2 3 years, I think.
Wow, that was really interesting, Samiran. Um, Thank you so much for giving us your time today. Your insights are definitely going to be enjoyed by our audience. They're definitely going to get a lot of value from this. But where could they reach you? Where could they learn more from you?
So I'm there on LinkedIn, or you could kind of follow me on Twitter. It's at the rate Samiran Ghosh. Uh, and that's where I kind of share most of my content and thinking. And I'd like to believe that if you search for me on Google, you'll find me. So,
That sounds like a plan. I'm pretty sure Google's going to get like a new uptick in Google Trends for Samiran Ghosh. Okay. Thanks for joining us once again. We will be back with a new episode and a new expert really soon. So stay tuned, folks. We'll definitely see you around for the next one.